Well, welcome back, everybody, to KFW. I am your host, Luis Delgado. I'm so glad to be here with you guys as I'm recording this right now. We are just a couple of days from Christmas, and I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to you guys. I'm really hoping, guys, sincerely, that you are enjoying your time, that you're not just busy with shopping around and doing all these other crazy things. I get that that's some of the things we have to do, but I hope you guys are enjoying some time off with your family and getting ready to just welcome the new year. I know I'm excited for 2026, and I hope you are too. And guys, I won't take any more time from you. We've got a great episode today, as always. We have another great group of people that are here to talk about something that you guys brought up on social media. So, really, we're doing this because we got some feedback on social media about Florida fishing. And we're back with a panel of three guests that are here to talk about Florida fishing. Is it overrated? Is it still good? Is it getting harder? And as kayak anglers, do we have an advantage in Florida? Guys, without any more hesitation, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great group of guests in here tonight. We're talking about Florida fishing, the one and only Florida. And really, we're doing this because we had a bit of a controversial question on social media the other day, and it was Kylie who got to answer that question. So we brought her back to do it again. And so I'm going to let everybody intro themselves, starting off with Chris. So, Chris, what's going on, man? Tell us a little bit about how long you've been fishing in Florida, and which bodies of water you're fishing in your area.
Hi, my name's Chris Mitchell. I've been fishing Florida for all my life. We moved here when I was like 6 years old, so all my life, really. Started kayak fishing around 2015, 2016. Before that, I was heavily into the boat scene and stuff, and that kind of became an issue with paying for gas and all this other stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
saw kayak fishing as a good way to compete, do my own thing instead of being in a back of a boat as a co-angler, and just fell in love with it. So started fishing since then. Um, the bodies of water I fish, I'm all over the state of Florida at any given time. So it depends on what tournament is next, really. There's two tournament trails down here we got the Florida Bass Nation, and then we got the FKBT right there, Florida Kayak Bass Trail.
Nice.
And I just fish both of those as much as I can. And yeah, so I mean, tomorrow I'll be down south at Istapoga, and maybe the next weekend after that I'll be down even further in Okeechobee. So,
All right,
you know,
let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. All right, maybe it should be this. What's your home lake? Give
my
me your
home
home
lake.
lake.
Okay, well
Yeah,
that's an easy one. That's Lake Kissimmee. That's my bread and butter right there. I love that lake. Just
nice.
enough grass in it, not too much grass, and that's a good topic we'll get on to here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, go ahead, man. How you doing?
Good. I'm doing good, man. Appreciate you having me on. I'm Dan.
Absolutely.
Unlike Chris, I am not originally from Florida. I'm actually from upstate New York, so I've been here about 12 years now. And kind of like we talked about before, it was intimidating and starting to fish, but now I couldn't imagine going back there and having to compete with those elements now that I'm so used to Florida. Um, Absolutely love it down here. I'm in the Tampa area, so I'm on the west side of Florida. And kind of like Chris said, I like to compete in some of the trails, the kayak trails, which kind of forces you to try new lakes, which I absolutely love to do. And I think I actually heard Kylie on the last episode. There's just so many lakes here, and they all have fish in them. So it's like you don't have to go far from home. My home lake is actually something called Tenorock Fishing Management Area. I'm sure these two have heard of it. It's actually old phosphate mines in Lakeland, Florida,
Mm,
and there's about 15 lakes or something there. They all give you different, habitats, ways you want to fish. They can get down to like 60 feet deep. So that's kind of my home lake. It's the closest one to me. Like I said, there's like 20 different lakes there. So if I want to work on fishing pads, I could hit one lake. If I want to kind of hit open water, I could hit another. So yeah, that's kind of the journey that brought me down to Florida and fishing down here. And those are the bodies of water I like to hit.
That's pretty cool. That's awesome to have that variety. And then, of course, we've got Kylie back,
Hmm.
who was with us last week, but she did such a great job. We brought her back. So, Kylie, go ahead and let everybody
I
remind everybody
I
where you're
appreciate
from.
that. I know I gave a full intro spiel last time, so I'll give the shortened version for
There you
anyone who
go.
missed it. But yeah, my name's Kylie. I live in the Orlando, Florida area. I've moved to Florida from Georgia, kind of where you are, Luis, in about 3 years ago. That was when I started fishing. Period. Like fishing from the bank, any of that jazz. Like was when I learned how to fish at all. That slowly branched out into wanting to compete. Same thing, like Chris said, didn't want to be stuck on the back of a boat. I wanted to be able to kind of explore and gain some independence in learning these bodies of water. So that's what got me into kayak fishing. I now do the same two trails, Florida Bass Nation and the FKBT. That has put me on most of the water that I have touched here in Florida. Technically, my home lake, I guess, would be Lake Toho. That's the closest to me in proximity. It's not my favorite lake just because I haven't mastered it yet. I haven't been consistent enough on Toho to like really gravitate towards it enough, but that's a me thing. I think I'd prefer to go on the Harris chain, which is the next closest to me. So yeah, been enjoying the kayak game and same thing. Got a bunch of new bodies of water I haven't touched yet, but excited to get on and figure them out.
Nice. Well, guys, so good to have you all here. Excited. We've got people from different areas, different backgrounds, fishing out of different kayaks. So I think this is going to be awesome. Now, I've got a comment I have to read to you guys from our social media um, over here on Instagram from Powell Kayak Fishing. And this is kind of why I wanted to do this, okay? As someone who's from Georgia and just a few hours away from Florida, help me understand this comment. Are you ready? It says, I drive 1,900 plus miles and back twice a year for Florida fishing. And the question I have for you guys today on this episode and for everyone listening, with Florida being what it is today, is it really worth it? Is that comment still accurate? So we're going to dive into some questions. We're going to help the audience understand, and we'll start in order. And I've got pretty much, 5 questions that I want to go over with y'all, but it's pretty laid back. We're going to have a good time, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. So without any more hesitation, I'll jump right in. Chris, you're going to start us off. Chris is looking excited. Chris is
I'm,
looking pumped.
I'm
Can't.
never I'm never one for to be first. So
Oh man, oh man. Today is your day, man. So let's just get into it right from the rip. Um, been doing a lot of research and talking to people from Florida, and I actually even had a short conversation with a biologist who does some work in Florida. Um, my first question for you guys is this: with the habitat change happening, with live scope being introduced into these different lakes, with heavy vegetation and a variety of structure and cover. Is Florida actually getting harder to fish from a kayak, or are anglers just relying too much on what Florida used to be? Because there was a certain way to fish in Florida before. I think we can all agree on that, right? There was a lot of staples, a lot of baits and techniques that you just went down there and they work, but they still work. However, I think what I'm seeing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, I think what I'm seeing is that Florida fishing is getting a little bit harder with scope, with pressure, with number of anglers out there. So is it actually getting harder, or are people not just adjusting? Chris, start us off, man.
I don't think it's getting harder. I think you just have to adjust, like you were saying. You could absolutely do it without scope, but it does help with some things like you've seen it down in Okeechobee with the Bassmasters or 90% of the fields fishing the rim canal using scope and doing really well, where that wasn't a thing back in the day. It was just
Mhm.
all flipping and frogging. But flipping and frogging is still a viable way to catch them down there. But um, I think just I think it's just really just have to adjust. I mean, find areas that other people aren't fishing. Really, that's what the kayaks are good for. Is get into places where boats can't go, and get to unpressured fish. And you have to. These fish are always they don't move, but they move. So you have to kind of find them out.
Hold
So
on, hold on. I'm gonna have to explain that for people that are listening that are not from Florida, unless that is some secret juice that you got to hold on to. What do you mean by they move but they don't move? Can you break that down a little bit?
so what I mean by they move is that they don't move from like one end of the lake all the way down to the other end of the lake. They're not doing that. But what they're doing is kind of doing like a circle in their favorite area. So if they're getting pressured
Okay.
at one spot, they're going to kind of slide up to another spot where they're not getting pressured. And when someone finds them, they'll start sliding around. So that has to do with grass growth too. Um, like one of my areas on Kissimmee, lights out. I was catching them every time I went there. Hydrilla grew, completely gone. So all those fish just moved out of the way because that hydrilla is just really topped out, and they don't really. I never really find them in the topped out grass, but that's what I
Okay.
mean. So there's topped out grass here. They'll just kind of go over here, and you just have to find them until you get into them.
Almost like a rotation.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what
All right.
I've experienced.
Okay. That's interesting, man. That is really really interesting, man. That's good to know because you've got to think right now. There's a lot of people listening that have no idea what Florida vegetation is, or what it looks like, or how to tell the difference, or where these fish could go. So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of juice right there, man. Thank you. All right, Dan, what you got, man? Is it getting harder, or are people not adjusting? What do you think?
I wouldn't say it's getting harder. Kind of like Chris said, you got to kind of adjust to it. And one thing I do find too, and I'm sure these two would agree with these sort of lakes, is sometimes they're hot, sometimes they're not, and you always hear about it. You're like, oh, Rodman, it's on fire right now. The Harris chain's on fire right now. The Kissimmee chain's on fire. So I do think in aspects of that it does kind of rotate with what lake is on fire at the moment. Um, Another thing, like Chris says, is it's Florida, man. You got to cover water. You got to cover water. You got to throw presentations in there and kind of find that pattern and find out what they're doing. And to be honest, being on a kayak, I find it easier because I can really hug that shoreline. I can, and we have things here. I'm sure you might have some up there, but we got pad fields, and I don't just say pad fields. We got like 300-yard pad fields here, so we're able to get up there in that kayak and really hug the bank, really beat the bank hard. As far as life scope, I think it's a even playing field down here, man. It really is. I mean, I think it could definitely help you out with finding that structure offshore because in Florida it's hard to find structure offshore. In case you didn't know, lakes are not deep around here, so finding like deep structure is hard to do. If you have live scope, I guess that can give you a little bit of an edge. But once you get up near that shore, like I said, those pad fields and that vegetation, we're all playing the same game at that point. So I don't think it gets harder. I think you got to adjust to it and figure out what lake you're on. Figure out where they are. Like Chris said, they're there. They moved, but they didn't move far. So figure out their pattern, stick to it, and you'll catch them.
Okay. You said this one thing that kind of piqued my interest. You said that, sometimes the lake may be on fire, another one may not. Like, do you have an idea as to why? What would be some of the defining things?
I don't. I mean, I kind of do. Obviously, seasons. Seasons are a big thing. I like to transition through my lakes at seasons. There's some lakes that I like. Toho. I absolutely love Toho in the spring. I just went there like 3 weeks ago, and it wasn't the best. So I definitely think that helps. Pressure, obviously, tournament season. You got
Hmm.
boats spring and starting in the beginning of winter, so that could bring a whole lot of pressure to certain lakes. There's a lot of lakes between Lakeland and Orlando that are very small and they don't see a lot of tournaments and things like that, and that's what I mean about transitioning to water. If I know that there's been a tournament and a bunch of people beating the bank on Lake Tahoe or the Kissimmee chain, I could just find one of those smaller bodies of water inland in Florida and do pretty good. It doesn't have pressure. It hasn't seen a lure in a long time. So that's the big advantage of down here. You have a lot of options. So
Awesome. Awesome.
mhm.
Kylie, throwing it to you.
Yeah, I think my answer is probably just I don't know if I can answer it as confidently as them, just because I don't really have anything to compare it to. And what I
Hmm.
mean is, like, I got in the game kind of late, so it's kind of been this way as long as I've been fishing these lakes. It's kind of all I know. I hear stories about, years back where things were just, on fire. People talk about how things used to be. I've seen some of that even in like some of the ponds and stuff that I fish, where I know I could consistently catch certain size and numbers. And now that's not the case, I think, just because of probably myself putting pressure on those spots. But
Hmm.
I will say, especially with the lakes and so much of the vegetation and how I've seen some of them like really overgrown and stuff. One thing we're not short of as kayak anglers is places that boats cannot get to. So I don't necessarily think it's harder for us because we're not we there's still availability. We can still get to so many places where fish are. And like Chris said, like if they've moved out from where they were originally, wherever they moved to, likely we can get to. So you just kind of have to expand off of that. I think that's probably the biggest advantage of fishing from a kayak is, you get to the uncharted waters that maybe don't have as much pressure on a regular basis.
Yeah. Let me
Hmm.
ask you guys this question before we move on to the other one. Kind of like a little side question. This is a free for all, so whoever wants to answer first, you guys go ahead and feel free to add some feedback. Um, because I really am curious about this. So here on Lake Lanier for me, I'm clearly at a disadvantage in a kayak, like 100%. I was just telling you guys earlier, you get to our lake, and it's a phenomenal lake. It's a great lake once you figure it out. But there are no lily pads. There's no grass. There's no like, oh, there's a field of timber over there that I can see. You can't see the timber without electronics. So I'm clearly at a disadvantage. And spotted bass move like crazy. Like they are demons on wheels. So um I gotta ask you guys this question. Is being in a kayak, do you guys think honestly, no bias, right? Do you think that you're at a better advantage over a bass boat? Or do you think you're still at a disadvantage? And Chris, this is interesting for you because you came from that boating world. So what do you guys
Yeah,
think?
I
Uh,
I think there's a little bit of disadvantage because you if you're not in the right part of the water where they're biting, you just can't get up and go like the boats can.
Hmm.
exactly. Yep.
But that's what's so important about pre-fishing or practice,
Hmm.
just finding the right water quality. But I mean, if you end up not in the right water quality, it could really hurt.
Yeah.
So there's a disadvantage, but there's always an advantage and disadvantage to everything. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one do you guys think plays out the most though? At the end of the day, do you think a kayak angler can have more advantage than a boater, or do you think the boater will always have more advantage just because of the ability to cover water like that?
That's tough. The ability is
Yeah.
very important here. Very important here. So
Yeah.
I
I
don't know.
I don't I don't know. I will say I've invested a good bit of time on some tough days moving, like trying to cover water and like get to the opposite side of the lake. And that trek may take 25 minutes, depending on where I'm trying to get to. That's a lot of time to lose, especially when you're fishing a tournament. And I've gone
Hmm.
over there and still not really had an outcome different than where I was. You know what? So I don't know necessarily if I had to think, like, I can cover water, just not really as quickly, and it's more risky. But at the end of the day, I think if we're looking lake to lake to lake to lake, specifically in Florida, you have to get uncomfy in some of the vegetation. And if you're trying to get an answer across the board, I think the advantage would be being able to get to different places on a kayak that you can't access from a boat. I think for me,
Okay.
I would say it would be an advantage in general for where we fish specifically.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. We had so we were talking about kayak trails. So Georgia Bass Nation. The closest we've got to Florida, and it's a co event, is when we go to Seminole, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seminole has all of these little holes that boaters can't get to. And it's literally like you have like, I don't know, like a small little canal, I guess you would call it, where you've got a few feet of water where you can make it through. And if you're willing to just like, you know, go move like whatever fallen trees and fight through that grass, you'll end up in this magical little hole like 10 foot deep, and the bass in there haven't seen a bait like potentially in months. So I had a buddy who um I can't remember if he placed first or second. I can't remember. This is a couple years back, but he found one of those holes and he just went in there and he just sat there with a wacky worm all day long. Just caught just monsters, monsters, monsters for 2 days. And so that's why I asked that question, because when I pull up those maps, I see so many areas like that that you don't see that anywhere else. Really, it's really difficult to find that in any other part of the country, unless you're, maybe Louisiana, Texas type area. Then you can start to see some stuff like that. But it really doesn't even come close to Florida. So so fair enough. Fair enough. You still
Yeah.
got a major advantage in a boat. All right,
Yep.
number two for you guys. If someone moves to Florida tomorrow, because there are actually a lot of people moving to Florida right now, and a lot of people move to fish.
Hmm.
It is one of the most traveled to states in the country for fishing and just for living. So, if someone moves to Florida tomorrow with no local knowledge, what's the biggest mistake they'll make in their first year of kayak fishing? Chris?
Biggest mistake. Uh,
And this could be anything. This could be mindset. This could be
yeah,
technique. This,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, like a
anything.
mindset thing would be just getting overwhelmed with how much grass there is.
Hmm.
Th- that and using too light of a line. I've seen that happen a lot,
Mm, that's a
and
good one.
they'll just dig you into the grass and break you off. But the line, you have to change your whole rod and reel setup. It's a
Yep.
whole different animal down here with how you need to fish to be successful in it. So it's just gear and mindset is the two things I see that people kind of overlook and kind of want to dig more into.
Okay. And then if you were talking to a beginner, someone who just got to Florida, trying to figure it out, what would be a piece of advice you'd give them to overcome that mindset adjustment?
Don't let the grass consume you. Get out into the main body of water. Start. You'll see this fuzzy little grass everywhere, and there's gonna be a line. That's what we call Kissimmee grass. And you just start on the outside of that Kissimmee grass, and all you need is a little speed worm or a cutter worm, and just
Hmm.
drag it around or swim it around. That's the only thing you really need to do to at least catch some fish. So just don't let all this other grass and everything else kind of distract you. Just kind of stay in open water and fish that Kissimmee grass. That's like the 101 right there for Florida fishing.
Florida Fishing 101.
Yeah, I
Mm.
think don't overcomplicate it because it really is like the simple stuff that you hear that are just like June bug, speedworm. Like as common as it is that way for a reason. So like you really have to kind of
Yep.
go back to the basics over time and time again and just keep it really simple, especially when the bite is tougher. I think too, I would prepare to be easily tricked. There's a lot of bodies of water and places on these bodies of water where everything looks so juicy. Like it
Mhm.
looks like it would just be packed full of fish and it's not. Like it can be dead water. So I wouldn't spend that's kind of like double-edged sword. If you know they're there, spend time there. But if not, if you're truly just finding them, don't spend too much time in one spot because everything looks good, like it will produce, and that's not always the case.
Yeah, that's good. Dan, what about you, man?
Yep. If somebody was moving here tomorrow, first thing I tell them is we're full. First of all, so busy. No, I'm just kidding. But I was going to say exactly what Kylie said. I mean, coming from New York, everything looks good here. I mean, you go out on these lakes, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm about to have the best day ever. I mean, there's fauna. You got duckweed, you got hydrilla. It's just you got lily pads that you could flip. I mean, it's endless, and it comes with that. Everything looks good. There's a lot of ways to fish a lot of things, so you end up with tons of setups. and you end up overcomplicating things because you're like, oh, I see lily pads, I could do some flipping, got to bring the flipping rod. Everybody says the chatterbait's good, so the grass is here, let me grab the chatterbait. When really, if you want to get out there, you really want to learn how to Florida fish, start with the basics. First of all, put a wacky rig in your hand because you will catch them here. Find a place to throw those, and kind of like what they said, a speed worm, a fluke, those basic things that we all started with will get it done here. And from there, you can kind of move your way up. And when you really get to learn the water and how these fish move down here is when you can start getting a little more advanced. So I would tell them don't overcomplicate it, and keep it moving because everything does look good. Be prepared to be passing up some juicy looking spots.
So two things. So I heard keep it moving and then get to the basics, figure out those Florida
Yep,
staples, learn those, get your
exactly.
confidence up, and cover water with those. Is that right?
Yep.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
let me
100%.
ask you guys all this question right here. How many setups are you taking out on the water in Florida? Chris?
It's usually like it's usually like 5 to 7. But if I'm like really
Yeah.
dialed in, I'll take 4. But it's usually around 5 to 7, and 7's like one spinning rod. So sometimes 6. So yeah, it's around there. It's around that
Nice. That's
many.
not bad at all.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah.
Dan, what about
Mine's
you?
7 too. 3 on each side. And then I keep a spinning rod on my kayak holder. So 7. And I could always use more, but I'm like, I just got to cut it off and tie something else on new.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Kylie?
7 for me.
7? That's
7
pretty
for me.
cool.
Usually
Yeah.
one spinning rod. I will say there's been times too where, like, let's say practice went well and I caught them pretty much on the same thing. You would think maybe you don't need to bring as many, but I will still bring as many with just different variations of that bait. Like, for example, like Harris chain, the day that I went when I was catching them on the chatterbait a ton, like I had 3 different chatterbaits that ranged in size, color, and weight tied on. So like I'm still bringing the same amount of setups. It's just a matter of, is it a combination of 2 or 3 styles of fishing or baits, or is it one of everything, that you're trying
Mhm.
to figure out what
mhm.
they're biting. So, but I'll
Yeah.
I'll max it out if I have room for it. I'm gonna put it
Oh
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Oh
crazy.
yeah.
I feel so like a lot of the guys here that I go out with, and I mean, it could just be like the people around me. Like we go out with like 10 to 12 rods, like 10 to 12 setups. But I will say this. I think Kylie, how many spinning setups do you take out? One? Yeah. See, we have to take like 6 of those. We have to take like 6
Yeah.
spinning setups. Yeah, we got
Yep.
to do a
Yeah.
jig and minnow, a shaky head. We got to do a Ned rig. You got to do a Nico. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
pretty
got 2,
hectic.
the wacky rig on the spinner and then the drop shot.
What line? What line are you guys using on that wacky rig?
About
I use
65-pound braid. No, just
the,
kidding.
I honestly do use I use about 15-pound braid, but I got it tied onto a leader.
What's
So
that leader? What's that leader?
about 10 pounds.
10 pounds? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I usually do 10. It depends on where I'm fishing. If it's not as heavy, I like to go lighter. I'll do like a 20 to 8, braid
Yeah.
to fluoro, but they're usually around 10 pounds.
You guys are
Okay.
brave. You guys are brave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
finesse fishing.
I can't do
You go straight braid, Chris?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
My man.
I'll do
I
My
that.
get
man.
okay. Can I ask you guys this while I have you? Sorry, Louise. I don't mean
No, no,
to.
no, no. This is what we're here for. Come on,
With
ask away.
some of the places where we fish, the water is so clear. How much
Mhm.
do you really think it matters with braid line
Oof.
visibility going straight
Oof.
braid?
I
Because
don't
Oof.
think
I
it
get
matters.
paranoid thinking if I
Can of
can see
worms.
it, they can see, like
Yeah.
Can of
I'll
worms.
moss green, whatever, black, those are usually the 2 colors that I have, but I feel it could just be paranoia. Like I would hate to miss the opportunity to catch more fish because they can see the line. So, but then
That's
obviously, I know you're catching fish, Chris. So if you're throwing straight braid, I can save my time not
there you
tying
go.
Alberto knots and throwing straight braid.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a specific way I fish. It's really weird. Like I don't think they see the braid as much as you think they do. I've caught just as much fish straight braid than fluorocarbon. However, I feel like I get better hookup ratios with fluorocarbon,
Mm,
and I feel like I rip out the hook of the fish's mouth with a straight braid.
mm,
It really depends on the situation you're fishing in. kind of determines what kind of line I'm going to use. So
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
they see the braid as much as you think. Even in that clear water, I don't think they care.
Now on the heavy stuff, you don't have a choice. You know,
Right.
you gotta go.
Yeah,
You
you
gotta
have to.
straight
Yeah.
braid. But yeah, and stuff like that where you're in more open water, I feel I gotta tie anything that's moving. I feel like I need to have a fluorocarbon leader on. Anything finessey, I feel like I gotta have a leader on. Anything
Yeah,
else,
finesse for sure. I
I
also think it helps it sink a little better than just straight braid because
that's
braid
true.
does
Yeah.
float. So that is why I kind of will stick with the leader. And it's just like you said, it's a mental thing. I get bites both ways. There's been times I'm like, I'm not retying a leader on here.
Hmm.
Straight braid. I can't. I gotta save time. And then I'll catch them. So I'm like, did I really need that leader?
I
So
know.
it's the thing when I get my gear ready and I go to the lake, I put the leaders on. So
Yeah.
and a
Moving
long
stuff, I feel like the
okay.
stretch gives you a little bit more give too.
Yeah. We can't have this
Yep.
conversation right now, guys. I'm going fishing the next 3 days, and I can't. I've already tied up.
What
I
to
kid
do,
Like,
what
I
not
kid
to
y'all not. I'm
do.
sitting here having these thoughts in my head, like, should I go
don't start
retie?
tinkering.
I'm like, no. Just leave it. Just leave it. Just
Yeah,
leave it.
whatever works for you, man. Just if it ain't broke, don't
Yeah.
fix it.
Right.
I would like to point out to the people that are listening and not watching. Chris is actually rocking a blue fidget spinner right now. You want to show us that fidget spinner, bro? You just took
It's
me back to
missing.
like
I
2015,
love
bro.
it.
It's missing a weight, but it does the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoot, that's all that matters. So yeah, a very, very interesting point there. You know, line selection. I'm not even going to give my thoughts right now because if not, I'll be lost forever. But yeah, that's. I did have one question, guys. I got to ask this about the braid. Do you guys think the braid ever just like blends in with all that grass?
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm over here again. You guys got to pull me out of Lanier. I'm fishing in like 60 feet of water. So imagine there's nothing and it's just like a straight
Hmm.
stiff line of braid down to like the timber to the fish, and it's like there's a little jig at the end of it. And they're like, no, that's not real.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game up there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and they've got like 20 foot of visibility. They're like looking up. So yeah, yeah.
So
Let's
are in those instances, are you just fishing full fluoro or you have like a really long leader
no,
on?
no. I've got a long leader on, and like, I mean, I'll give you an example. Some of my jig and minnow setups, like if I can do 5 pound, I'm doing 5 pound, like five
Hmm.
pound leader. Yeah, if I can, like. But I, again, I'm on a kayak on Lake Lanier, so I'm at a disadvantage from a boater. The deal here at Lake Lanier is the same thing, and Hartwell and you know Lake Russell and Clark's Hill spotted bass fisheries, still with some largemouth, but the spotted bass have taken it. Like you're running and gunning, you're moving. So as like a kayak angler, I'm like I gotta have every last advantage that I can. So I think that's why a lot of us we go out with like 10 rods, 11 rods, and like just everything is as like perfected as we can because it can get overwhelming. Like for us, our lack of stuff to throw at shallow is what can be overwhelming if you show up here. Whereas like when I go to you guys, I'm like, this is too much. I'm going home. Like, so yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Before you guys lose me, let's go to number 3 because I'm about to go retie all my setups. All right. Do Florida bass actually live shallow like everyone says, or do kayak anglers just fish shallow because that's what's most comfortable to us? So we talked a little bit about this. Boaters have gone a little bit more with live scope, but I'm still seeing a lot of kayak anglers chase them the traditional ways, shallow, power fishing. Yes, some people are using live scope, some people are using electronics, but people are still chasing them shallow. So, guys, are those fish really there, or is it just that that's where we're always fishing?
I think they're always there.
You always catch them shallow. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, the first time I fished Gunnersville, someone asked me if I was fishing deep or shallow. I was like, I think I'm fishing pretty deep. It's like 12 foot deep. And he was like, no, that's shallow. I'm like,
All right, let's
that's
let's
shallow.
define
So
let's
yeah,
define
you
that.
have
Let's
like
define
not
that.
much range in a lot of
Yeah.
these. Like what we consider deep in a body arc could be 8 foot compared to 1.5 foot on the shallow side.
Mhm.
So shallow is shallow. It's just a matter of the deepest point versus the shallow points. but I agree with Chris. You can always find them shallow. I don't spend too much time in deeper water just because I don't have the electronics to really see what's down there, and I like my style of fishing. I like to be shallower. I like to hang on like right on the grass edges. So that's
Yeah.
usually what I'm doing. But so I can't really say if they could be there too, but I know they're shallow. So I'll
Yeah.
probably spend my time there rather than, you know, searching for them in deeper water.
Okay. Dan, what's shallow to you, man? What's shallow to you?
Shallow here is like 2-3 feet.
What's
And
deep? Okay. What's deep?
I would say 15.
15 feet. What about you
Yeah.
guys?
Yeah.
I got on what did we last fish? What was the last event we did?
That was
Walking water.
Oh,
Arbuckle.
Arbuckle. Yeah, I was on
Yeah.
Crooked.
crooked. Yeah. Oh, I know.
23 foot of water. I was like, this is crazy. I never see this.
Yeah.
That was like really deep for me. So
Yeah,
I would
that's
say anything beyond 15 foot is deep.
Deep. Okay.
yeah.
All right. All right. So let me ask you guys this. When you have a tournament and a cold front just slides in, shuts those F1s down, what are you guys doing? I mean,
Mhm.
for us here, and when I say us, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina, that whole Southeast region, most people, their first thought is like, I'm going to slide out a little bit deeper, even if it's just a few feet you know, how do you guys respond to this time of the year, maybe where, of course, it doesn't get freezing, but when you guys have a cold front? I see Chris over there, like he doesn't want to release
I feel
whatever
like he's gonna
secrets
say he's
you
not
see him.
changing a thing. I feel
Tell
like
me.
that's what he's gonna
I
say.
hope he does. Come on, Chris. What you got, bro?
I just stay home.
That's what to say.
Let
He's like,
everybody
you
know.
don't change. You don't change.
What if
Yeah.
it's a tournament, man?
Tournament.
What are you doing on tournament day?
I'm not recording anything. I'm just gonna catch my fish, show up to the weigh-in. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No. Cold front. It's very iffy on like if they're in the spawn or not. So
Yeah.
Let's go no spawn. Let's
No
go no
spawn.
spawn. Yeah.
They don't, like I said, they don't move a lot. They move, but they don't. So if they're on one piece of cover, I'll use my fidget spinner. If they're on one piece of cover, right, they're hanging out over here before the cold front. I'll do this as a mat.
There you go.
And the cold front comes in, the water temp drops a little bit. You're gonna go right underneath that mat. So you're catching them like this all week long on the outside of the grass. Cold front comes in, they're gonna get up underneath that grass because the sun heats up that grass a lot faster, and they just feel a lot more comfortable underneath that.
Yeah.
And so that's when the heavy punching stuff comes into play.
Yep.
And
Okay.
that's a whole different ball game there too.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's
Dan,
what
what
I'm
about
doing.
you, man?
Kind of just piggybacking off what Chris just said. Shallow water gets warmer a lot faster when that sun comes up, and especially when it's matted down and has heavy vegetation. So if you really can't find them where you were finding them before the cold front, I'd really get up into the thick of it. If that's not working, I'd throw on a Carolina rig and just start dragging it nice and slow because it'll work.
Gotcha. Kylie?
Yeah. My first instinct would be probably not to change anything, just because I feel like unless it's cold long enough to like really change the water temperature, like it's not changing too much for them. But my go-to in general when it starts to get colder is shallow cover for sure. Like I will move up towards the edges even more into the heavier stuff. Like they said, shallow cover when, but in the coldest of months, like I catch them shallow. I top water fishing is still like my favorite bait to throw in the wintertime is a buzz bait. Like it really is. They're going to be up there, but that shallow cover, especially in like a heavy cold front, is where to get them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
When the bass stop moving here is in the summer when it gets hot. I feel like during the winter they actually are more active, personally, than August.
Yeah.
Summer is brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when
I believe that.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's interesting to hear that the summer is harder than winter.
Yeah, get your drop
Wow.
shot in the summer and just hang out on the boat
And
because
yeah, slow.
slow.
Yep, it's tough.
All right. All right. So cold front rolls in. We're actually going to push a little bit shallow, closer to the cover. Everyone agrees. Let's go on to number 4. All right. This one's going to be a little interesting. We're going to go on both sides. Which Florida technique do you see people overhyping for bass fishing on social media that doesn't, do you think, consistently work as well as they say it does? And then which Florida technique do you see people underhyping, like it's actually slept on in Florida that may be working really well right now? All right, Chris, go ahead.
I'm trying to think because usually I don't really pay attention to everything that's going online. I just kind of do my own thing. So
Yeah.
I don't really know what people are hyping up for lures.
Chris is too busy fishing, guys. All
Yeah,
right. He's too focused on winning. So
I look at like media stuff as doc talk, and that just kind of spins me out. And I just kind
yeah.
of do my own thing, or whatever works for me.
Yeah. Dog
Um,
talk spins me out. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, like this back to the scope thing. There's a lot of people using like minnows and jerk baits and stuff. Um, it's not. I don't think it's overhyped because not a lot of people can master that, but it works really well. Um, one technique that I could say that not a lot of people do is that really heavy grinding, punching the mats and flipping cover because that's just a lot of work. Not a lot of people want to do that.
Okay. So you're talking about like being like actually being in the thick of it, out of the kayak. Like it's got to be hard too if you don't have the right setup on a kayak, I
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't have the right rod, it could easily just rip the hook out of the fish's mouth. Your wrist will be done by the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's very specific stuff that you need. I mean, you don't need it, but I mean, it just helps out in the long run.
Oh, dude, I almost threw my shoulder out on Seminole.
Yeah,
First time pitching into some thick stuff. Um, there was the one log in the lake, you know,
yeah.
under some thick pads was there, and I set the hook so hard and about threw my shoulder out for real. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Dan, what about you, man? Overrated, if you can think of one, and then one that's underrated.
Overrated, and I'm not gonna say it's overrated because I don't hate it by any means, but if you're here in Florida, everybody throws one, and that's a chatterbait. And being from
Okay.
upstate New York, I never ever threw chatterbait until I moved here. I didn't like to fish them when I first got them. Obviously, saw the price tag on some of them, so I was like, the bag of worms is $5. I'm not. But then I really started to learn how to use them in the grass down here, and they do work. Do I think they're a little overhyped? Kinda. I definitely don't catch all my best fish on them. Some guys do though. So again, I'm not hating on that at all. Um, so to me, I think they're a little bit overhyped. Everybody thinks you got to kind of have a jackhammer tied on to be able to compete and all that down here, and that's just not the case. And
Hmm.
again, I'm gonna kind of talk about what I did before for underrated, and that's gonna be finesse fishing. Um, I'm a big finesse fisherman. I'm gonna go back to the basics and say one thing people don't throw a lot around here because of the vegetation is a drop shot, and I'm not sure why they're not because a drop shot around here it'll get you your limit for the most part.
Hmm.
Will it be big? Probably not, but it'll get you your limit, that confidence, and so you can keep going on with your day and try to get some calls. But I've had some of the guys are like, you're throwing a drop shot. What the heck? I don't care. It's catching the fish. So I definitely think that's something slept on. Nice small little missile bait worm, and we'll get the job done. So
Awesome. What, dude? What do you cut out on us? What was that last part?
I said I usually will just get a little small, like 3-inch missile bait worm, and that'll usually get the job done.
Awesome. Awesome. Kylie, what about
Yep.
you? Overrated, underrated?
Um, I don't know. I feel like anything that I would say is overrated is just because I don't like it, but I know it works for other people.
No, yeah.
I
If
can
you
see
don't
a
like
whole
it,
list of
it's
stuff
all
that I'm
right.
like, it's either like territory I just haven't like really stuck out long enough to master, or it's not fun for it's just not fun to
Yeah.
do. Like
Yeah.
you have to get good at like punching and stuff. I'm not saying that's not one that's overrated. That works. I just don't like it.
Mm.
It's very repetitive. Like I really struggle to figure out how much time to spend in one spot, and then I realize I've spent too long in this one spot, and it's just it's not my favorite. But I remember when I first started fishing and was like looking up in the general scheme like what baits to do, like plopper style baits were like all people wanted to talk about too here, like a whopper plopper or something.
Really? Like a Chopo or a Whopper Plopper?
Yeah,
Okay.
which can you catch fish on them? Yeah. Have I caught fish on them? Yeah. But I just to the extent of what I was expecting when learning to fish, like it's not like the go to that I think would be something that I would spend too much time with. Um, yeah. Another thing I'm probably, again, this is me. I'm not spending as much time throwing as maybe I should would be like any stack, like type of crankbait. I just don't have the time. But like I hear the guys lipless crankbait, and I bring them. And sometimes I throw
Yeah.
them. I'd be lying if I said I enjoyed it. But sometimes you just got to rip a lipless through the grass and hope for the best. But I can't say that one's overrated because it works. It's just it's not my favorite. A lot of what is well known in Florida works, and it is well known. I disagree with Dan on the chatterbait, but that's just because that's my favorite way to fish.
Yeah.
That is my
Yeah.
favorite, bite here. Like you put a chatterbait in my hand, I'm gonna catch fish. So
Yeah.
it's just hard because sometimes depending on where you are, you can't, you can't
Mm-hmm.
fish a chatterbait. You don't have enough fishable water to be able to
Yeah.
fish it. So I can't always, but if I have the option to, that's what I'm gonna use.
That's it. It's so crazy how we can all be doing different things and still have good results.
Mm-hmm.
That is
Definitely. Yep.
that's a special thing about fishing. Yeah. That I
Mhm.
mean, how many times have you been in a tournament? It's like first place caught them on one thing, second place was doing something totally
Something totally
different.
different. Yep.
Third
Yep.
place was like maybe junk fishing, and you're like, okay, I wasn't doing any of those things. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool to see that. Yeah. All right. Here's my next question for you guys. This one's gonna be, I think this one's gonna be a tough or easy depending on how you look at it, but we'll see where it goes. And since we've been going with Chris first, let's flip it around. We'll go with Kylie first, Dan, and then Chris. Yeah, look at him; he gets a break. So let's do this. Your least favorite thing about fishing in Florida, and your favorite thing about fishing in Florida.
My least favorite thing about fishing in Florida. I feel like my answers are kind of the same, and I'll tell you why. Because there are times in Florida where it is just so hot and like uncomfortably hot. Like a 9 hour day in the heat, in the Florida heat, can be like brutal, right? But on the other hand, my favorite thing about fishing in Florida is that you can fish very well year round. And the only
Mhm.
reason why that's the case is because we have such a warm climate. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
That's definitely probably my least favorite, just because of how like hot it can be. But two, I really think that would probably have to be it. That's my struggle too. Sometimes too, when we're in these seasons where the temperature's fluctuating so much, your range and when the day starts versus where it is midday is like 20 degrees. Those days can sometimes be hard too, just because it's so inconsistent.
Mhm.
That's something that's hard to adjust to. But other than that, like I like that it's shallow. I like the grass. Like I can vibe with all of that stuff, and I like that it's December and 80 degrees today. So
And you're throwing a buzz bait.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So
that's good. That's good. Can't do that
Mm-hmm.
over here right now. Dan, what you got, man? Least favorite, and sorry, your least favorite thing, and then of course your favorite thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is perfect too, because coming from New York like 12, 11 years ago, I could kind of compare them. I'll say what everybody's thinking. One of the things I don't like are the alligators. All right, guys. We all know kayaks. My grandma's always calling me, "Be careful out there. You're crazy on a kayak, bass." They don't understand. They'll leave you alone if you leave them alone. But it's definitely something to get used to and to be aware of your surroundings. But I would say my least favorite for real is, I'm not going to say the diversity, but in New York, you could go catch smallmouth deep if the day is bad, up shore, up
Hmm.
shallow, a largemouth. And then if you can't catch them deep on a crankbait, the smallmouth, you could kind of move up shallow and try to get some largies. So you kind of had that option there where here we were, I mean, it's largemouth or you're catching
Mhm.
or something like that on accident. You don't want to catch them. So it's not
Yeah.
like you
Ooh, you just brought something up that made me,
can.
yeah, because I don't like catching anything other than bass. Like I'm very
Yeah.
partial to bass. So like pickerel, catching
Yeah.
pickerel and bowfin,
That
bottom,
was,
Yeah.
that might be my least favorite action. I think that takes the cake because there's
Yeah.
nothing that's going to get me closer to cussing than catching pickerel. And if there's one thing I'm good for is catching a limit of pickerel. I don't know, but that's because I like to throw chatterbait. But
I was about
That's,
to say, it's that jackhammer.
it's
Or
like it really
yeah.
is. But I don't like catching. I guess with the variety of fish we do have, you don't want to catch them. You only want to catch the bass that we have.
Exactly. You guys haven't seen them before. It's hard to get the hook out of their mouth. They got some big teeth, so it's not like
yeah,
catching a perch or something.
yeah.
So
It's I when I was trying to scope down there, I scoped like, guys, I kid y'all not, like 6 chain pickerels. I was like, forget this. Tied a jackhammer on. It was like golden shiner, I think, ripping it through the grass, hooked up in them. I was like, finally, chain pickerel. And I was like, okay, speed worm, speed worm. Let me throw the speed worm on the grass line. Threw the speed worm, boom. I was like, this is it. Started rolling bowfin,
Oh,
bowfin. So then I
yeah.
threw his little Bill Lewis scope stick, shallow jerkbait, black crappie. I was like, all right, cool. I love this place. I love this place. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chris, what you got, man?
All right. So, favorite thing about Florida would be being able to fish all year round, like Kylie said. The wildlife is really cool to watch. Just
Awesome.
you got deer just coming up,
hmm
alligators. They don't bother you unless you're next to their nest when they're
Mhm.
doing their thing. They just like all the wildlife that you get to see out there, and actually just like driving to and from the lake, mid morning, evening, going through
Yeah.
like cow farms and stuff like that. I just
hmm
like the whole open space. Just my favorite thing to do is just driving, especially with this water. This air temp is like 60 degrees. It's perfect. But my with all that being said, I absolutely hate fishing in Florida because of all the grass. All the grass.
Yeah.
It put me on headwaters, and I'm just dreading it with all the hydrilla. The hydrilla just eats my soul. I do not like it. So whenever I get a chance to get out of the state, I'm in heaven, no matter what state I'm in, because it's just something
Yeah.
completely different, and I'm not dealing with a bunch of grass in my prop. So,
Yeah.
but that's one of the things I just don't like about Florida. Then the constant spraying, where it's just killing the wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that's really bothers me. I love the state of Florida. I'm just
Mhm.
kidding about hating it, but I love the state of Florida, but I just hate seeing our own wildlife just diminishing with the spraying and all these housing developments coming up. So it's just it
Yeah.
bothered me.
Yeah. That's been a big one. Before we close out and we start moving in that direction, since you brought that up, do you guys know? Because I mean, I'm not too educated on it. Do you guys know if anything is being done in regards to that, or if they're? I know some people are trying to shed light on it and do something, but are they making any progress or anything?
Yeah, I work for Hell's Bay Boatworks, and
Okay.
we're a big supporter of Captains for Clean Water, and they're trying their hardest to pass bills and try to block bills to prevent these massive things going on that's behind the scenes that nobody knows about. But there's people out there fighting for it. I'm kind of in it by association, but I'm supporting it, and yeah, there's things trying to be done, but it's as time goes on, it just looks like I'm getting kind of emotional about talking about this because it's
I hear you're fine, man.
um, as time goes on, it just looks like it's like a slowly losing race. Politics is
Yeah.
just so crazy. I just hate it.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah, it is tough, man. It is hard, absolutely. I hope that I will say this, man. I hope that anglers in Florida and outside of Florida, you know, begin to take action and do something. And guys, if you're listening to this, along with myself, starting with me, as Chris talks about this and he talks about getting emotional, just think about losing those areas that you fish or those areas that you love and that you hold dearly to. So yeah, it's definitely, Chris. If you have a link that I can add below where people can add any kind of support, let me know and we'll add that.
Okay, yeah, I'll get you
Yeah.
a link.
So guys, if you're tuning in, guys, make sure you head down there and you check that out. But thanks for that, Chris. And before we close out, guys, one final question on Florida. One final question. And we'll start, Kylie, with you first again. We'll let Chris go last. Dan in the middle. If anybody said that Florida was overrated for kayak fishing, give me your strongest argument as to why it's not, and they should still go fish Florida and check it out for bass. Kylie, you got the floor.
I feel like this is going to tie into the last answer that I gave, which was a little,
Do
it
it.
seemed to be controversial in the comments. I will say, when asking like about the overrated fishing in Florida, I am someone who very much likes to support the new angler and the like I really push accessibility for fishing like and make it seem as approachable as possible just because it's not something that I really grew up doing. I just kind of started doing it. So I want other people to see how you can do that too. So when I say Florida is not overrated, I just mean that anybody, regardless of who you are, age, area that you live in, you know what I mean? Like you can get to fishable water. And I think that
Mhm.
alone is enough that makes it worthwhile for the people who are here. Now, if you start talking specifically trophy bass and all that, I think it can get into difference between like here in Texas and things like that. But for like kayak stuff, as Dan mentioned earlier, you can get to these small lakes, that boats are not getting into that don't have a official launch that are holding fish, and that's an advantage that you just don't find anywhere else. Yes,
Mhm.
you can catch really good fish in other places. It may be like you can mimic the same thing to catch big fish in other places too, but you know, you have just as much luck as pulling out a giant bass in this place as you do here sometimes, and half the time you don't even know until you're on it. So I think you just have too many options for it not to be a good place to fish.
Yeah.
Whether or not you're talking trophy or not, but if you're just talking catching fish and wanting to catch fish, you can go anywhere, and you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Accessibility. Good
Yep.
take from Kylie. That's a great point for because a lot of times we forget that there are other people who fish and they don't do tournaments. Actually, most
Correct.
people that fish
Yeah.
don't do tournaments. That's right. So great point.
Yep.
Dan, what about you, man?
I completely agree with that. I don't believe it's overhyped down here because when you come down here, so many bodies of water are accessible and they're accessible fast, and you can get to the fish fast because a lot of the lakes around here too, again, are not deep and they are not huge. There are some huge ones, don't get me wrong. So you can really get out there, cover water, figure out what they're doing. So I don't think it's overhyped at all. And obviously the weather is another thing that factors it in. I mean, these guys from New York, it's obviously not overhyped because you could come down here and you can throw top water in December. And you can do that all year round. I mean, that sounds like heaven to any other bass fisherman out there. I know those guys in New York are putting the covers on their boats right now, and they're not able to do that. And the fact that we're over here talking about throwing buzz baits and stuff is just, I mean, we're blessed. So definitely not overhyped when it comes to that. And then kind of talking about the accessibility and the amount. I don't know. I'm sure most people listening know what a chain of lakes is, but we have a few of those here in Florida. Two big ones are Harris Chain and Kissimmee Chain. And if you don't know what that is, how many lakes are in those each? Like 50 plus. They're all connected by a canal. So you're talking about like one area with just 50 lakes that you can access and you can fish all right there at your disposal. And that's not just one part of the state, it's in other parts of the state of Florida. And
Mm.
Florida is a huge state. So when you think about that and compare it to, no offense to Georgia, I'm not trying to say it's great fishing there, but outside of Lanier, I have a hard time. It's just most other states have one or two big lakes, and that's like your lakes. That's the trophy lakes. Here in Florida, I feel like we have a pretty long list of any. If anybody came down here is like, where do you want to fish? I'd have a long list for you. So it's
Yeah.
hard to. So definitely not overhyped. It's great down here.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Good take. All right, Chris. Close us out, big dog. What you got?
Like Dan said and Kylie said, the accessibility, you could pretty much just go off of a retention pond off of 95 and catch a 10-pounder.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't recommend it, but you might get ran off by police, but it's possible. You can just go into any.
But you'll catch a 10-pounder.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
I've seen it.
yeah,
Apartment complex. Taught a kid how to fish. He showed up with a fishing pole that his dad bought from the store that day. Tied on a hook. He had a little H2O worm from Academy.
Nice.
Taught him how to cast everything. The next day I went back. He came outside, threw that in there, got snagged. I thought he was snagged. And he's fighting this fish like he's got a tarpon on the line. And we're just kind of hee-hee-ha laughing at him. And I realized the line's moving. 10-pound, 6-ounce bass he pulled out of his apartment complex pond.
Yep.
I've never caught a fish that big. And I watched an 8-year-old do it.
That's awesome.
Yep. So it's possibilities, right?
Yep.
In Florida. And that's one of the main things is about getting people over here to fish, or why they should fish Florida, is because there's just so much opportunity. And then the experiences, I've seen people that never come down to Florida before and experience all the, going back to wildlife, seeing all the wildlife, and they're just going crazy. They don't even care about fishing. They're just like looking at all the birds and stuff. So
Yeah.
it's just it's just a cool experience. It's really cool. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's what yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all, your time, your opinions, and your takes on, one of the best states of fishing in the country. And guys, if you're listening to this, you heard it here. Go ahead and make the drive, take your kayak, and send it down to Florida, and hit one of these guys up. Maybe they'll take you out.
Yep.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you so much for being here. It means a lot, and hopefully we can do this again next year. Are you guys going to Kissimmee? Is everyone going to Kissimmee?
Yep, we'll be there.
Yeah, I'm gonna text all of you. I'm gonna put us in a group chat.
All right.
You guys are gonna
I
tell
saw
me
you on the signups already.
You guys are gonna tell me exactly where to go. No, I'm just kidding. But guys,
don't ask me.
No, guys. But man, thank y'all so much again for a great episode, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you guys, and we'll see you on the next one.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. All right, guys, we're going to hang out for a little bit. I'm going to end this recording real quick. We just got to upload. Let's see. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that episode with everybody, with Chris, Dan, Kylie, great group of people from the Sunshine State. And I'm really hoping you guys were able to take away some value from this. As always, guys, remember that we are a part of the Serious Angler Network. I will leave all of the important links down below. And remember what Chris said about supporting the state of Florida and the situation that they're having right now with the habitat change. I'm going to leave that link down below for you guys. Thank you so much. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I will see you on the next one.